Morning peeps, hope you're okay. If you are new to this, welcome. Just to say, my name's Jonny Matthew. I am a social worker and a criminologist by training, and this is just my way of trying to be available to folk to share some interesting stuff, ideas, resources, training, that kind of thing, maybe answer some questions. Recommend some websites and things like that, and just speak to some of the stuff that comes up in the Troubled Kids group. So this is where we are streaming live now. If you're watching this on YouTube later and you want to catch it live, you can catch it there. If you subscribe, you'll be able to get the replays and stuff later on. But it's good to have you here. We are up to 1,330 members in this group now, which is quite amazing actually. So I'm delighted about that, and there's some fantastic stuff being posted in the group, and the purpose of it really was to share people's knowledge and expertise, and also knowledge of training and resources and generally useful stuff that might serve folk in the group. We're all in different spheres and sectors and things, but I guess the thing that we have in common is that we're all working with troubled children and their families. So it was a place of gathering all that together, really. Anyway, it's good to be with you again. Thanks for being in. We'll get to the comments in a minute. If you're on and watching, just pop a hello in the comments so that I can see you and give you a shout out as well. It's nice for me to kind of feel there are people there. If you're all quiet and reserved and you don't comment, then it's more tricky. But anyway, bless you. No pressure if you don't want to do that. So here we go, live stream number 9. So there we go. Let's have a quick look at who's in. Right. Morning Pam. Morning Cheryl. Hi Sarah from East Riding up in Yorkshire. My kids both born down here, and my daughter, who's working in the bedroom along there today, she says, "You're from Yorkshire," which is true. So anyway, welcome to Sarah from Yorkshire. Ellie from Calderdale. I had a great time in Calderdale, actually. We had a day together looking at stuff related to harmful sexual behaviour and stuff, I think in the autumn last year. And it was lovely. It was my first time in Yorkshire doing work stuff. And I really enjoyed it. So I'll give my best to everybody there. Ellie, hi Trina, Mary, Jackie, good to see you again. Deb, you got the book? Great. I'm glad that arrived. Oh, that was the Troubled Kids book, wasn't it? The blue one, which is up. Where is it? Up there behind me on the shelf. Up there. So I'm glad you got it. Brilliant. Let's have a highlight of my working week. Things have been quiet in Calderdale, are they, Ellie? Or just frantic. So anyway, I'm glad you're on board. We're going to need to have a conversation actually about how we take this forward and what we do, because already I'm starting to see that the questions are backing off a little bit. There's loads of activity in the group. So maybe the live stream is not serving as many people, or maybe people are watching it on YouTube. I'll have a look at the data and have a look at that at some point. But this works well, I think, when you're working at home, or if you're working and you can bail out and have a lunchtime. But whether it'll continue to serve people post-lockdown, and I know people are now starting to come out of lockdown around the place. So anyway, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Ellie. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Pam. Yeah, you might get some video interruption. It's just been like that here. It's been very wet, and it does affect the internet around here for some reason. I don't quite know why that is. Rhiannon got you. You got your book, Rhi. Brilliant. I'm glad. We had a backlog of books. If you're watching this after the fact, or you're new here, we give a book away normally, and but I had a problem with the post office. Me and the post office clashed over the lack of stamps. I had to order some stamps and stuff. Anyway, they've arrived now, and that's back on. So I'm glad you've had that, Rhi. Hi, Zoe. Good to see you again, or good to be seen by you again. Lovely. Thanks for being on, guys. Appreciate that. Need to tell you about the t-shirt. Do you like the t-shirt? Need to let you into a bit of a secret about the t-shirt. My 14-year-old daughter, my kids are now at the stage where occasionally they have stuff that I can nick. Normally they nick their stuff. Like I went in the bedroom to Annie's bedroom this morning and found one of my laptop cases. And it was an old one, but somehow it's migrated from my possession into hers. And there we are. So I don't know how that happened. But the great thing is, now they're at the point where some of the stuff they buy, like this t-shirt, which is hers, and I secreted from her room, some might say stole, last night, and so I thought I'd wear it because I like to wear a t-shirt for the stream. Anyway, there we go. Hi Steve, welcome mate. Glad you're all in. Deb got the book. Yes, now then, today we are giving away a couple of these. There we go, look. Harry the Hound goes to secondary school. So we're going to give these away now. If you're new to the stream, you won't be aware. Harry the Hound's a bit of a thing. It was produced by some local guys here I know, Neil Davis and Wendy Steer, who are both practitioners working with kids excluded from education, particularly, or needed to be bridged back into education. They're both excellent time-served practitioners who really get the kids they work with, and they wrote the book, the initial one, Harry the Hound Goes Back to School, to help kids dealing with that anxiety of going back in after lockdown. And I liked it. I just thought it was great that something local had been produced that was meeting a really specific need, and it was time limited in that sense because it was about lockdown. So we gave that a big push, and hopefully that served a purpose. I know loads of people have bought it, and Neil was particularly chuffed. He was in on the comments, chuffed at the number that had sold. And then he's gone and come out with another one. Harry the Hound Goes to Secondary School. Now this, I think, would be useful for either kids who are going back after a break like lockdown, or actually brilliantly useful for kids who are just going for the first time. There's real utility in this. You can use it really creatively. So again, I'd encourage you to get onto that. But I've got 2 copies, and I'm going to give both of these away today. So I don't know how many of you are in, but if you're in and you stay till the end, I'm going to give 2 of those away today. Although they're slightly bigger than the normal book, so we might have postage shenanigans again. But anyway, I'm going to give them away later. So stay on for that at the end. I want to look at some posts from... So this is how it goes. If you're new, we look at some posts from this week. Then we deal with some questions. Website review, book giveaway, and then we're done. I haven't got any questions, so unless anything pressing comes up in the comments, I'm going to skip straight to website review in a moment. But I want to look at a couple of the posts from this week. So Martin Hatton posted this one. It's a link from Vegas. I've not come across them. I don't know them. It's south of England, Beach Lodge School. Don't know anything about it. But Martin posted this because it's strategies for adults supporting traumatized children. Now it's largely in the school context, but there's tons of applicability in this. Now the content of this post is from Louise Bomber's book. It's called Inside. Now here it says I'm hurting. I'm pretty sure it's called Inside I'm Hurting. I couldn't find my copy of this, but she's brilliant, Louise Bomber. She's a psychologist, EdPsych, I think. But her stuff, I cannot recommend her stuff highly enough. And so she's talking about making links, practicing dependency, random acts of kindness. But the bit I particularly safety around school, helping kids feel safe in school. But there's a bit in here that I wanted to look at where she talks, if I can find it, she talks about touch here, and I just wanted to highlight this because we got into this a little bit last week when we were talking about my the blue book, working with troubled children and teenagers. And I think this touch thing is really important. And what this post does, it kind of highlights again the notion of using touch to help with regulation and with calmness. And even though this is talking about the school context, and that's what Louise tends to address in her work, but actually there's universal applicability to this. Excuse me, I just need to cough a minute. There we go. So she's saying here, touch can be very powerful, bringing a state of calm. It can help children who are dysregulated to feel grounded. An open palm, medium pressure on the pupil's top, mid-back, top shoulder or forearm can provide a soothing experience for younger people. Try jungle fun, where a pupil has to guess what animal is being drawn on their back. So they face away from you and you draw an animal on their back and they have to guess it, or they can do it as another one. Weather report is similar. Pupil having to guess the weather being represented. So you draw a sunshine or a lightning strike or a cloud or whatever on their back, and they have to guess it. It's really good, and that's just a really small part of this post. So I recommend you read the whole thing. But also, it's maybe something I'd like to write more about at some point. But I think the use of touch is underrated. We are so risk averse that soon as we think of touch in the professional context, we think of risk. The problem is, if you ask a foster carer or a kinship carer or even a residential worker how important touch is, they will tell you it's absolutely crucial. And they know their safe caring or safer caring policies. But actually, nobody these days will say, well, you can't touch because, well, it's just nuts and nonsense. And in fact, we've got a sound effect for you can't touch. Here we go, ready?
Thank you for playing.
There we are. So you can touch. It's important to touch. Really important to touch. It's if you think about how you would raise a child without touching them, you can't possibly do it. So how can we help a child who hasn't been raised well, who's had all kinds of struggles and maltreatment, adverse experiences and all of that abuse stuff in the background? How can we re-raise them or raise them in recovery without touch? And that kind of endorphin release, the release of oxytocin, the physical calming, and the emotional calming that works in tandem with that. Touch is really key. So I just wanted to, in the absence of questions, I just wanted to raise that and point you to this post. I have just actually ordered Louise's new book. This one is from Inside I'm Hurting. There's a couple of others I've got here actually that I've had for a while. I mean, this one is called Settling to Let. I mean, look at all the paper tags I've got. Can you see those? All these little tags on the side. I use this a lot. I was prepping some stuff, presenting to teachers at Pupil Referral Unit. That's Settling to Learn, Settling Troubled Pupils to Learn, Why Relationships Matter in School. It's co-written with Dan Hughes. I mean, it's just fantastic. And really extremely practical. Another one is this, What About Me? This is Louise on her own. Inclusive strategies to support pupils with attachment difficulties, making it through the school day. It's great. The new one, it sounds amazing. It's called Know Me to Teach Me. I'll just flick down to the link so I can read it properly. Know Me to Teach Me, differentiated discipline for those recovering from adverse childhood experiences. So I've ordered that. It's coming tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll have to have a bit of sneaky weekend reading when Karen's not watching to read that. I'm looking forward to that because anything by Louise Bomber is absolutely worth reading. So in the description below, if you're watching on YouTube, or I've already put the links in the Trouble Kids group to all of Louise's books that I'm aware of, the four, The Inside I'm Hurting, What About Me, Settling to Learn, and then Know Me to Teach Me, which is the new one. I'm not sure totally how new, but I think it's like in the last couple of months or so, maybe March this year. So that's fab. Another one that I just want to natter about for a minute is this one that Roz Kerslake shared the image. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little lad cowering in the corner. and it's a quote from learningstationmusic.com, but the quote says, "You can't teach children to behave better by making them feel worse." It's lovely, that, isn't it? It's lovely. It's simple. When children feel better, they behave better. Now, I just wanted to reference that point, really. I mean, and this is something, I get this wrong constantly, because I tend to be, with my own kids, too quick to wag the finger, too quick to get irritable and want to sort it out quickly because it's imposing on what I want to do and all that kind of stuff. And I learn that particularly with my daughter. And it's a constant learning curve, and you have to learn not to beat yourself up too much about it. But actually, there's a bigger application to this, I think, in parenting generally, that parenting and caring for kids in residential care, kids in prison. I mean, if prison isn't a place that proves that punishment doesn't work, with the reoffending rate being up in the late 60%, early 70%, then I don't know what is. Punishment makes us feel better sometimes. In political terms, it helps the public feel better. Somebody did a bad thing, now we've done a bad thing back. And there's this sense that somehow it balances the justice equation. I know it's a bit simplistic, but I think it gets to the nub of it, that people get very irate and annoyed at the notion that we're not going to punish. And I think some of that is to do with a misunderstanding about what punishment is about. It's actually not about helping the person who needs to change because they've offended, or their behaviour is aberrant in some way, or they've put something out, or they're a danger to the public even. It doesn't fix, and we need to focus more on rehabilitation. I just love that little image that Roz posted, because it gets to the nub of it. So I'm going to share this is a blog post I wrote a while ago now. When did I write this? 2015. Why punishment doesn't work and what we should do instead. There's actually a little video on the YouTube channel about this that I did when I was doing some Periscope live stuff about 5 or 6 years ago, and I did one on this, and it's the most watched of all those videos. So if you want a kind of a video version of this, you can go to the blog and find it, or go to the videos. If you want to go to videos, you go to johnnymatthew.com/toolkit. You'll be able to see there's links to the video section on the website, or just go to the website and look for that. But this was a blog post I wrote to address this issue about why punishment doesn't work. Sorry, this is in old format when I changed my website provider. I haven't gone back and edited this yet, but so it's how should we understand the things that trouble kids do, and it addresses this idea of seeing behaviour as symptoms. Symptoms of habit, of course, symptoms of reaction, yes, but actually symptoms of patterns of being which have been either encouraged, or where positive ways of behaving haven't been encouraged. And you get this in kids from all kinds of backgrounds that are troubled, and families that are struggling. And if we see behaviour as symptomatic, in other words, the behaviour is the observable part of how a child is, then we can address it as that and be less distracted into putting that right and think about the causes that sit under that. Now, I think that's really important, and I talk about the limp. If somebody's got a broken leg, you wouldn't shout at them and punish them and do bad things to them to try and make them walk quicker or run quicker. You'd say, well, actually, this person can't do that, so how can we help them work towards that? Well, if we need to fix the leg, and if we took our eyes off punishment a bit more often and put it on function and helping somebody to live on a more level playing field in a more just system, then we'd be better able to do that. And just sort of addressing this idea that what we tend to do is many of our systems for troubled kids, now for well brought up kind of balanced kids with a secure base and not many kind of adverse childhood experiences and so on, then there's incentives in a more behaviourist approach, and that can include discipline, if you like, sanctions and so on. But for the kids that we deal with professionally, that's not going to work so well. And in fact, it actually may end up compounding the very problems that are generating the behaviour in the first place. So we need, I think, in schools to move away from suspension and expulsion. We just need to stop doing it and think of more creative ways. Now, the education system is moving increasingly in that direction. It's a really good thing. That's not a global criticism of everybody. We were talking, myself and NICABM colleagues were on talking to a school yesterday that's set up entirely on a trauma-informed footing, and has got a multidisciplinary team of mental health practitioners and OTs and psychologists and family support people on board, and he's doing a brilliant job, and there's no hint of this there. Hence, they're able to keep those kids and move them along and do a great job for them. I think in the criminal justice system, we need to think twice about why we're punishing kids in the way that we are, and we need to focus much more and put our resources into rehabilitation. Because kids, what do they need? They need safety, patience, calming, and loads of encouragement. And then they need all that again and again and again. Yes, they need clear boundaries. This is not a saying don't do anything. Don't speak to kids need to be held and to know what their sphere of operation is and to know how far is too far. Of course they need that. That's crucial. But within that field of operation, if all we do is focus, or we focus mainly on when kids transgress those boundaries, we spend all our time, rather than doing something useful in the field of operation, policing the boundaries. And that doesn't help a kid learn to function within the system properly. So I think we just need to focus on that stuff. So I just wanted to share that with you, really. Just lastly, and also on this, wanted to thank Kerry. I don't know if Kerry's on. You might be on. I'm off the page now, so I don't know if Kerry's on. Thank you, Kerry. I know she's posted a couple of things, free training on ADHD stuff, and also some stuff this week. I think it was Studio 3. Big shout out to the guys at Dave Walker and others at Studio 3. They put on some training on interoception. Really important, that notion of understanding your bodily sensations and your feelings, and reading things like the vestibular system and the balance system, and it's about sensory integration. It's really critical, actually. It's a very physical, disorientating and problematic thing when kids are not nurtured properly and their interoceptive system is out of sync. Causes all kinds of problems, not just sort of functional dyspraxia and other things, but actually not being able to interpret whether I'm hungry, whether I'm cold, whether I'm bored, whether I'm really pissed off and angry. How do I differentiate what all of those things are? Really important. So there we go. That I just wanted to say thank you to Kerry for that. And again, I don't want the page to become an advertising thing for paid stuff, but if you go on something and it's brilliant, stick it on the page, and particularly if it's free to access stuff, let's have it on the page, because that's really good. Let me just come to these comments a bit, because there's a few popping up here. Let's see who we've got. Hi Fiona, good to have you on. Hi Alison. That must be a lunch break thing, Alison, because I'm sure you guys are probably back in school. Great to see you. Feel privileged that you've tuned in despite being at it. I'd be interested to hear from you how it's going. Tim, hi Jonny, can we be clear between school and education? Yes, good point. Lots of schools doing superb work, but as Mark Twain said, I never let school get in the way of education. 80% of a young person's time is spent outside of school too. Completely. Yes, here. Well said, Tim. Yeah, appreciate that. I also need to declare an interest here in that I hated school. I really did. So I am unfortunately coloured by that. I'm sorry about that. I really hated it. I'll never forget my deputy head, who I never spoke to, who I was a little bit in awe of because he was a deputy head and I never came across him at all. I saw him twice in the whole time I was in secondary school. One was when we were supposed to have a kind of careers interview. It was like an aspirational, what do you want to do? And that was a thoroughly unsatisfying conversation. The only time I ever saw him, other than that, personally, and had an interaction with him, I was walking through, we had this thing called the youth area where the seats and the benches were, and there was you could sit down, there's a tuck shop there and a pool table. It was like a kind of fifth form kind of a chill out zone where you were in lessons, but you were in the dinner hall, so you were in this youth area. And I was walking through. There were doors at either end. He was walking one way through, and I was walking the other way through. And as I was walking towards him, which I'd done probably hundreds of times before, and we just passed each other, and he never flickered. He didn't even acknowledge me or say hello or anything. His name was Jobbins. And I remember Mr. Jobbins walking towards me, and I was walking towards him. And as I got to him, he stood across my path and stopped in front of me, so I had to stop. And he looked down at me, because I was small. He looked down at me and he said, "You really annoy me, Matthews." And then he walked on. I was left there thinking, okay, I don't know what that means, except that clearly you're very annoyed, and probably you get annoyed when you see me. And that was that. So anyway, that's part of my experience of school life. So I'm probably not the best advocate for school, but thank you for that. Tim, I meant in relation to your comment about exclusion from education. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Now, a couple of you saying, I've used that quote. I don't know which quote you mean now. Sorry about that. Stick it in the comments so I know which quote you mean. Zoe and Cheryl both mentioned that. I've used the quote in. Oh, is it the quote from that Rox put on? Yes. Oh, no, absolutely. I imagine that's what it is. Hi, Varna. Nice to see you. Jackie's saying kids are not naughty or destructive because they want to be. There's always a reason for it. We need to understand and work with them to help them get back on track. Some of these kids have gone through or are going through it. Absolutely. And I think some kids, school is the safe place where they can express some of that stuff. And even if they're not trying to express it, it can be triggered by being in the presence of other kids or triggered by the additional stress of being in an organised learning environment. Yes, absolutely agree. Gary's saying schools need to be providing online lessons for young people with COVID. Very disappointing for young people that need help. Yeah, true. And I think also need to be doing some of that online stuff. And I know some schools are actually doing some really good stuff. Others are not. My own daughter's school, we wrote and applied. I was a day late doing that, or 2 days, no, 1 working day late doing that. They said, let us know when the kids are coming. I did it the day after. And they just wrote back and said she hasn't got a place. So she's been winding up to going back to school for after COVID and hasn't got a place. And that's that. So in a whole secondary school that's only got 1 year group attending this week, she can't go in. And I've had no comment. If I hadn't emailed them, I wouldn't have known. She'd have turned up and been sent away, which is really poor. But anyway, you can imagine I let them know that in gracious terms, and they responded graciously. But it really was a failure to recognise the needs of kids for clarity well in advance. Anyway, there we go. Real. Wow. We're half an hour in, and that's great. Who needs questions, eh? Good. It's nice to interact with the comments. I'm enjoying that. Right, I have got 0 questions, so I'm going to cut to a website review because I think this will serve you guys. Let me just click through to this. So this is the NICABM website. That's NICABM, which stands for the National Institute for the Clinical Application of Behavioural Medicine. Never was there a most awful name for something, but it's North American, so there we are. Everything's shockingly clinical and just badly worded in my view, a lot of that stuff. However, the website is brilliant and the people in it are brilliant, and it's what a resource. So here you go. Let's share this with you. This is NICABM. You can see that in the top left up here. Now, I like this because there's tons in it. It's actually it's a real mix, this site. A lot of sites are either free and okay or commercial and okay. This is a really good balance between the two. So if you flick down, so the top people involved in it, Bessel van der Kolk, I'm going to give away a copy of his book next week. The Body Keeps the Score, because it's like the Bible of trauma related work. I'm giving that away next week. I've already ordered it and got it here ready for you all. There we go. The Body keeps the score. Boom. It's fantastic. So that's next week. But all of the top folk from the States, at least, and a couple from elsewhere, are on here. Now, if we scroll down, you can see here, these are the courses. Now, this is where they make their bread and butter. They're not cheap, these, but in my experience, they are good. And I'll maybe talk a bit more about that in a moment. But if you scroll down again, you get to the juice for us, I think. So here we got, you see this section is called infographics. I really like these. They work hard at producing good infographics. And they can be handy. They can be handy to enhance our own understanding, obviously. They can also be really handy for working with families or for training. So I recommend those. If we click on this brain-based approaches to helping clients after trauma, you come through to here. Now, this is one of their blog posts written by Peter Levine, I think. Is it? I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Just see who it is. Yeah. Anyway, but there's the infographic. So if we just enlarge that, you guys can get a better view of it. So it breaks the brain stuff in the middle. You've got like the brain stem, cerebellum type stuff here, and it's all on fire. This kind of, and what it's saying is these are the kind of approaches you can use. So sensory motor psychotherapy, and then the yoga EM, that kind of body calming stuff. And Peter Levine does a lot of stuff on mind-body integration approaches and things like that. And I think that's really useful. It feeds into Stephen Porges' latest stuff on polyvagal theory and things like that. But it splits it up. So on the left, you've got bottom-up approaches here, how to help the client cope with their raw emotions and defensive reactions, how to kind of stop the reaction, if you like, that startle response, that habituated negative reaction, dysregulated reaction. And then on the right here, top-down approaches that help clients to think differently. More cognitive approaches, looking at reframing and thinking exercises and mindfulness and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of links these things to different bits of the brain. And it's just a really quick hit approach to that. So if we click back onto the website, if you carry on down here, there is a blog, and then there's some free resources. So these are little free videos that you can get. So Ron Siegel here, good stuff. John Borysenko there's very good as well. Jack Cornfield. I mean, these are big hitters, you know. So these are well worth looking at. So if we flick through to the blog, which I think is up here, we can get a better link here. So when a client is stuck in the freeze response, that's a little 4-minute video. I listened to that earlier in the week. Peter Levine just talking about some of his mind-body stuff, about somebody who carried the stress of previous traumatic experience in their body. They had a locked up jaw. When they get angry, their jaw would lock. And he talks about how to unlock that while dealing with both addressing the trauma, but also looking at the bodily responses to that. That was just, they were giving away the proceeds from a course. Story for clients stuck in worry. There's an interesting one down here that I haven't looked at yet. When staying neutral isn't the best thing, about a client making a racist response and how to respond to that. That being neutral isn't always the best call. Usually, yes, professional neutrality, particularly in the therapeutic context, is important. But actually, this is a response from Miguel Gallardo about how to cope with that. I haven't listened to that yet, but that's on my list of things to do. Worth having a training list. If you haven't got one, get one. I've just started building one this week because I think there's things I want to do that I haven't got round to. So I want to finish this just by showing you, if I can. I've bought into 2 or 3 of their courses, spent a few £100 over the last 3 or 4 years. How to target treatment to help patients reclaim their lives after trauma. That stuff with Bessel van der Kolk. And what it is he talks. This is Ruth Basinski, who runs the NICABM Institute, and she interviews him about the latest research into trauma and treatment. and then they look back on what he said and they have discussions about it. And you can download the video, you can stream it, or you can listen to just the audio. And obviously there's all the transcripts of all of that. So I've bought that one. The Neurobiology of Trauma I haven't started yet, and there's another one which I've almost finished, which is Frontiers in the Treatment of Trauma. It's outstanding. I mean, I've spent about £400 or £500 in the last couple of years just on those 3 courses, but they are excellent. And if you are into trauma stuff and you already know quite a bit of stuff about that and you've read quite widely about it, or you just like visual learning and listening while you're watching somebody, it's excellent. I really like it, and as I say, I've spent some money on that. So again, just to recommend that, really. They, like all of these places, have a website, have a newsletter. You can sign up for that. Beware though, you'll get daily emails, and it's very salesy. So as long as I don't mind that, I tend to just delete anything that is salesy, because in amongst it is the free stuff. But again, if you know the website, you can just bookmark it and go back, or if you're researching something specific, you can include it as one of your sources and go back and look for specific things in that. So I don't worry about getting salesy stuff. But you will, that's just a warning to the wise. If salesy stuff annoys you, you will get quite a bit of that if you onto the website there and you sign up for the newsletter. So there we go. Just a reminder, if you're watching us on YouTube, just don't forget to subscribe. Right, I'm going to flick back to the comments, see what you guys are saying. Right, here we go. Gary, as young people are statemented not getting extra support, well, absolutely. And Karen and I have been having a conversation about this, because my daughter Annie, who's about 20 feet that way, has a learning disability, and we've had mixed. Some of the school stuff's been brilliant, some of it's been just absolutely awful. She's not statemented, but that seems next to impossible to get these days. But anyway, yeah, I feel your pain. Wow, I could do an hour on that right now. Jackie just saying, in response to Gary, primary school kids where she works are a priority. Yeah, absolutely. Some schools do that brilliantly. And I think as with key worker kids and year 6 kids are priority, that's brilliant. The website is called NICAM, NICA application BM. The link is on the site, Deb, on the Trouble Kids page, and it will be in the description for YouTube as well. So that's there. Yeah, feel free to click through to that. Zoe's saying, how can a young woman aged 26 with learning dis be supported to recognise her own emotions and articulate these? Unsure if learning diff or trauma related, from chaotic childhood and neglect, ongoing social services involvement. Well, oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's a long piece of work in it, Zoe. I mean, I think the starting point is I think one of the starting. I mean, there's so much we could say about that, and my mind's now clogged up with a whole lot of stuff. But I think the starting point is to make emotion okay. In general, I think when we're interacting with folk who we know are at this stage, so we're assuming it's early stage recovery, probably not very emotionally intelligent, probably not been emotionally regulated previously. So not only is there an absence of good learning, necessarily then the default position is she will have learned to react out of whatever she's feeling, and probably doesn't even understand the notion or the necessity of regulation, may not have terms that apply to her emotional state. So I think making the expression of emotion okay, so not reacting negatively to it, feeling free very carefully to express how you're feeling about things, to help with things like attaching labels to things. So rather than she's very angry and she's effing and blinding, just to say, I can see that you're really angry. We all swear when we get really angry, or sometimes we do things that we regret later. Sometimes we break stuff. That's part of being angry. What we need to think about is how we can help you. Being angry isn't wrong. In fact, being angry is normal and okay. We just need to think about how we're going to express that carefully. You know, I mean, you will have to tailor that to her, of course. You might want to do a body map of where she feels anger. You might, depending on how able she is, want to think about what kind of labels, language labels people attach to anger. I used to do a lot of feeling faces work with kids about what angry might look like. It can be difficult to deal with a stress face and an angry face. They may look entirely the same. So then you're having to make the body link. How might that be different? Those two, of course, can be integrated and overlap. That's another thing. So I think deconstruction can be helpful. Labeling can be helpful. But starting with having a really safe place where expression of emotion is okay, but where it's held safely. And then when things are calm, deliberately revisiting, or maybe if she's not comfortable for you to talk about her stuff, to revisit emotion as an idea. You know, so we're going to talk about when we feel angry, and maybe you can share some situations when you feel angry. Maybe you can find a story or draw out a cartoon story of somebody who feels angry. Maybe you can find a clip from a video, have a look on YouTube and see clips of videos, look on the NICABM website and other places, look on Beacon House, Child Traumatic Stress Network, or any of these places. Learning diff sites will have Facing the Challenge, local here, may have resources on that. Put a post in the group. How can I help an adult, a young adult with learning disabilities deal with their emotion, and see what comes up. Zoe, I'm sure that was a million miles less than adequate, but hopefully it's a help. I think context is important where we're dealing with emotional stuff. Gary acknowledging Jackie and Gary having a good convo there. Lynn saying hi Lynn, good to have you on. Brill. Oh well, there we go. Great. Who needs questions, man? We've got it in the line. Maybe we should do this each time. Get on and ask stuff, and we'll Mamela Edwards making the most of my nap time. If you want a nap, don't listen to me, man. It's all ADHD here. There's no napping when Johnny's on. Lovely. Right. I'm going to do book giveaway now. So now is your cue to write me in the comments if you would like a copy. I've got books coming out of my ears here. If you would like a copy of Harry the Hound Goes to Secondary School. I got two of these. I bought one thinking I'll give one away and one that I might use for Annie, but actually I don't think she needs that. A, because she's not going back to school, and B, she's not particularly worried about it. So there we go. So please write me in the comments now if you would like Harry the Hound Goes to Secondary School. As with the other Harry the Hound stuff, there is stuff in here that's not, it doesn't just need to be, it could be school anxiety, could be anything related to that. So there's a body map worksheet, emotions diary, draw a friend for Harry, relaxation exercise, helping kids rate their own tasks and things, keeping in mind object, that's really important, transitional objects for kids, secondary school checklist, just to help kids get out of the chaos of what they need to do before they go back. Find your tie, lay out your uniform, get your shoes ready, pack your bag, blah, 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 all that stuff. Letter to my teacher or teaching assistant, really good, just expressing my ideal self at school. Supportive poor, where you think about people who are supportive people, obviously people at home, but then people in school. Have you got a couple of mates? Have you got a dinner lady you talk to? Is there an LSA or a teacher you can talk to? Emotional check-in. It's fantastic stuff. I mean, I love this. I love Neil for this. I think this is great because there's stuff in there you can use that's outside of the specific remit of the book. And Kyle, I have to say, has done an outstanding job on the design. It's really simple, primary colours. It's good. In the hands of a creative person, it's got Uggins and mileage. So I'm going to play the theme tune, and then I'm going to give away the books. No, I'm not. I'm going to play the fanfare theme tune. That's far too egotistical. Here we go. Fanfare. If you haven't done it already, write me in the comments, and I'm going to pick two people now. Here you go. Fab. Okay. I'll put the ticker on while I'm doing this, just in case you need to. Okay, let me find. I need my glasses on to find where the comments are. So I'm going to find the top of them, and then, so if I do that, I get all the way down. Right, here we go. So I've got to do this to make it fair. Right, here we go. Let's go down, 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 down there. Leanne Palmer. I'm putting a love heart on there. It's not a come on. It's just to so I can remember that you won it. And another one. 1, 2, 3. Boom. There. Steve Corrigan. You should have one just for being... Oh, no. Gary's on as well. Just for being the only bloke on. Oh, and Ed's on. Great. Welcome, Ed. Fantastic. Good to see you, mate. Ed only joined a few minutes ago because... yeah, he'd applied, and so I'm really glad you made it, man. Fab. So there we go. Leanne and Steve. I haven't put you a heart on, Steve. Sorry, mate. There we go. Heart. Brill. So in the ticker, that's my website there. mail@johnnymatthew.com. Send me your postal address, guys, and I will get those in the post ASAP. I've got the wrapping, I've got a shed load of stamps, so we should be good to go, and I'll get those to you as fast as I can. Lovely. So just to say, next time we're on next, just grabbing my next book, we're on next Wednesday, 8th of July at noon again, and I'm giving away a copy, Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score. This is outstanding. In fact, it's up there on my shelf of my kind of top few books. I should go through those at some point and explain why they're my top books, if that's remotely interesting to you. But anyway, there we are. So I'm going to be giving that away next week and looking at a website that relates specifically to trauma, which I've got in mind. Please, if there's any questions, put them on. If there isn't, that's fine. We'll just do this again. And I think at the very least we'll carry the stream through at least to the end of July and maybe regroup at that point to see whether it's something you guys want to carry on or whether we shift the time of doing it. I'm going to be in lockdown a bit longer than most because of the old asthma, I think. So I'm really hoping I'm going to be working here for a while to come, at least hopefully into the autumn, and I can keep doing this because I love it. But I mainly enjoy it because of you guys. So thanks for being on. It is amazing to have you here, as I say, last couple of weeks. I feel like I've been with my mates, and it's lovely. So more power to you. Keep doing it. This is a really crucial time for kids. Adults are stressed. Professionals are stressed. Teachers, I've got a load on them right now, dealing with a bunch of kids coming out of the last 2 or 3 months. You guys, I know, will have a lot on your plate dealing with your whole home stuff, your professional stuff, and the emergence from lockdown and things. So please, please, please look after yourself. It's really important. We've done a course on this. If you want, feel free to get on there, but this is not a salesy thing. It is really important to look after yourselves because you are your most important client. Unless you and I are on our best game, what kids get from us is less than the best, and that means it undermines their ability to recover maybe as quick as they could. So there we go. I'm done. I'm gonna go and have some lunch now, and I will catch you Wednesday the 8th at noon. Bless you. Thanks for being on. Take care. See you next time. Cheers.